Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, jumbo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jed Lee, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are so happy that you are part of our beautiful Reading with Your Kids family. We hope and we pray that you are staying safe and that you and your family are healthy and surviving this quarantine. Our guest today is Cheryl Sturm. She is the author of a great new book from our friends at Familias. It's called 100 First Words for Little CEOs. Before we invite Cheryl in, you know, this quarantine time, we're reading lots of books together. They're doing activities together. You are suddenly thrust into the position of being a teacher, finding activities, things to engage your kids. And sometimes you just want to do something that's fun. Well, we have a fun reading out loud book that you are absolutely going to love, and your kids are going to love it too. The book is called The Last Surviving Dinosaur, the Tarantacranchosaurus. It's written by our friend Stephen Joseph and playfully illustrated by Andy Case. This book tells the tale of how the dinosaurs became extinct. And it's not that life-ending meteor shower boring story the paleontologists always tell us about. No. The Tarantacranchosaurus is so very cranky that she makes all the other bigger and meaner dinosaurs disappear. That is until she comes across the only dinosaur who is immune to her incessant complaining, the Tarantacranchosaurus. These two dinosaurs evolved into humans, and that's where cranky people come from. And you know, this book is especially relevant right now because we are spending so much time together. This is such a stressful time. And chances are that some of us are getting cranky. And the Last Surviving Dinosaur reminds readers that it's really, really important to be mindful of when and how often they complain. And that's a lesson that everybody can learn from. You know, The Last Surviving Dinosaur by Stephen Joseph, it's available online at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and many other sites where books are sold. The Last Surviving Dinosaur, the Tarantacranchosaurus, written by Stephen Joseph. Joining us on the line right now from the beautiful city of Chicago. She is the author of a great new book from our friends at Familias. The name of the book is 100 First Words for Little CEOs. Please welcome to the show, Cheryl Sturm. Cheryl, how are you?
I'm great, Jed. How are you?
I'm really excited to talk about this book. It sounds like a great way to start talking to kids about taking charge of their lives and thinking about being entrepreneurs and being the CEO of their lives.
Well, I hope it is. You know, Familias has this commitment to writing and creating books for helping families be happy. And this is a fourth book in a series of 100 First Words for little geniuses, little geeks, little artists, and now little CEOs. And I love the premise that when you're teaching children words, although words like apple and dog are, of course, words you would learn first, mm-hmm. Why can't we have more sophisticated words? Because kids are such quick learners, and I think it's fun to engage both the child and the adult in words that can be a little bit more interesting. And also, the words in this book, business words, are, of course, related to business, but they're also words that help one manage a successful life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's so important. And one of the, I talk a lot on the podcast about this time that we're living in. It's beautiful. We have all this technology. Kids literally have in their pocket a little rectangular device that is a sophisticated television studio, sophisticated recording studio. It can send messages throughout the world. But we're also living in a time where everybody's experiencing media that's really narrowly defined. And so whereas when I grew up, because we didn't have any options, if I wanted to watch TV, I sat down and watched what my parents were watching. And, a lot of that had language and vocabulary that I didn't understand. but I learned it because I either picked it up through context or asked the loving parent or grandparent sitting next to me what the word meant. These days, a lot of kids, they're just watching content that's made for third graders, so they don't see they don't hear any vocabulary that's beyond their current place in life.
I agree, and I have a little nephew, and I was with him, and somehow he heard me use the word ridiculous. And at one point, I was telling him no about something, and he said, "Oh, Aunt Cheryl, don't be ridiculous." And of course, children do parrot the adults around them, but he knew exactly what was the right place to deploy that word. He pronounced it perfectly. And that was just a little memory that I thought of when I was looking at the words for this book.
Yeah. Well, tell us some of the 100 words that little CEOs are going to learn by reading this book.
Okay, well, I'll tell you some that I think, based on what we're talking about now, apply not only to business but to life. So one is ethics. And there's a little illustration that Kyle Kirshner, the illustrator, did that I think is really cute. And it's a boy that has an angel on one shoulder and a devil on the other. Because don't we all deal with ethical questions throughout our lives? Another one is team. I think, where do we get without teams in our life? So many endeavors are not just for one person. You need help. Leader. It's a word that I think leadership is important. We can see it in our world today, how important leadership is. And I think that teaching that concept to children at a very young age is important. Travel. My background is I helped found a travel company called R. Crusoe and Son. And I heard on one of your other podcasts someone talking about travel and how it opens up your eyes to the world. And one way a lot of people travel is through business. Business travel has opened a lot of eyes to opportunities that in some cases then people know they want to go back on vacation, but it puts you in situations that you might not otherwise have been. And I think you do see the world differently after you travel.
Absolutely. Mentioning travel, Cheryl and I were talking about some traveling that we've done recently. One of the beautiful things about my career is doing educational magic shows at schools all around the country and in Puerto Rico. I've been in places I never would have been to if someone hadn't invited me to go and perform there. And whenever I go to places, a lot of times people go, "Oh, must be so much fun. You go to Philadelphia, you go to Pittsburgh, you go to Chicago, you must be able to see this thing and that thing and that thing." And it's like, no, actually, I'm working, so I go and I do my job and I travel to the hotel. And if I'm lucky enough to have a kitchen in the hotel, I'll go to the supermarket. And that's what I love. I love doing the museums with my wife. It's kind of creepy doing a lot of that stuff by yourself. But it's fun doing that touristy stuff with your wife and kids. But I really love going into a new place and going to the supermarket and spending time with the people who are there and seeing what life really is like in these different places.
I totally agree. And I think that, well, as you said, when you travel for work, you don't always have the time. But if you can make a little bit of time now and then, I think the payback is huge. And you might not have a hotel where you have a kitchen where you can go out and do grocery shopping, but I think you can find restaurants where local people eat and duplicate that experience in an easier way and open your world to new foods, new tastes, new ways that people live. I was in Vietnam once, and there's a wonderful Vietnam soup that's very popular now. It's spelled Pho, but pho is how it's pronounced. And a doctor in Vietnam told me that was developed as a breakfast with enough sodium so that when people would go out to the rice fields in the hot weather, the sodium would help them retain fluids.
Wow, fascinating.
And so you learn those little stories that, every time I buy that soup now in the U.S., I think of that story. Where did this come from?
Yeah.
So I think that work travel that can create those learning opportunities is to be valued just as much as leisure travel. But work travel is exhausting too, because your time is not your own. So it's a balance.
Yeah. As you're mentioning, these words that we're going to learn in 100 First Words for Little CEOs, words like travel, leader, team, ethics, Yeah, those are absolutely words that our little kids, that we should be talking about with our little ones. Especially the word ethics, just that idea of starting the conversation about making choices, making the right choices, understanding the difference between right and wrong. But that's, we should be talking to our kids about that as soon as they can talk to us.
I completely agree. And I think that some of those right and wrong discussions usually are about safety first. Don't put your hand on the stove.
Right.
That right and wrong. Stay away from the stove. Stay away from the corner of the coffee table, that kind of thing. But, maybe kids were always this smart, but I'm not a mother. I'm an aunt and a godmother, and the kids I'm around just seem smarter at a younger age. And I think having these words there, some will stick, and it just will put them on the path of learning the general terms we're talking about, but also separately, I think financial literacy. I think a lot of terms in business and finance and marketing, statistics, all these kind of fields, it's like learning a foreign language. Mm-hmm. And we've heard from so many people over the years, especially women, I'm not good at math, and I'm one of those people that would say that. But I think you still have to try, and you still have to do your best. And I think that often you'll learn more than you think you will. Mm-hmm. So why not start that learning early?
That idea of financial literacy and teaching our kids financial literacy, that is huge. And it's something that we overlook. And we don't, and we've talked about this in the podcast, we don't understand that, why do we need to talk to our kids about savings and interest and all this kind of stuff? They're too young. They don't need to know about that. But while you're thinking that, at the same time, most parents are telling their 4 and 5-year-old kids, you got to do well in school because you got to go to college. You have to get into a good college. You got it. And that's putting the pressure on kids to, now they're 17 and 18. They haven't heard anything about financial literacy, making good financial choices. And now it's like, okay, what do I have to do? I have to go to this great college. That's what I've heard forever. But wow, it's $70,000 a year. I don't have that. Oh, someone's going to give me a loan and I can, okay. And they don't think about the fact that they're going to graduate and owe $150,000, $200,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and not only that, depending on what career one may embark on, let's just say you want to be a doctor. Well, of course you have to learn science and medicine, but you still have to run a business.
Right.
Because you have a medical practice. You want to be a lawyer. You want to be, you want to be a plumber. You're an expert in your field, but you still have to manage the financial aspect of your business and your life. So, I think that's important to start young. I also think that we're all customers and consumers all the time. Mm-hmm. And I think that, being more of a critical thinker and looking at products that are being presented to you and think, okay, what is the benefit of this product? What is the price of this product? Does this make sense for me? Helping with those critical thinking skills, I think, is important.
Yeah. And I love this idea of little CEOs and getting kids to think of themselves as the CEO of their life.
Absolutely. That's why when we were talking about words, I brought up leader. We all make choices every day. When you wake up in the morning, my first choice is, what can I accomplish today? It's going to be a great day. I'm going to make it a great day, everything within my power to make it a great day and see what I can get done. And I think time ultimately is our most precious asset. So taking a real leadership role in your own life to say, these are my choices, these are my priorities, is part of taking responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you've probably heard a kid somewhere in your life say, you're not the boss of me. But very rarely is it followed up with, I'm the boss of me. This like, I know you're not the boss of me, but I'm not quite sure who's supposed to be the boss of me. And this is a great way to let kids know that, hey, you are the boss of your life. You need to make these great choices.
Yeah, and I even think some of us as adults needed to be reminded about that now and again.
Yes, indeed. What was it that inspired you to, you have this, you founded a very successful company and you're in the business world and, you have 1,000 different things that I'm sure is consuming your time. What was it that inspired you to take take some time away from that and create this children's book?
Well, first of all, I don't want to say I founded the company because it was a team of people, and the leader of our team was a man by the name of David Weber. And I'm so thankful to be part of that team and really honored to have been part of the team. But I've always wanted to write children's books, and I wrote as a proposal a book called Baby MBA, and I sent it out, and Familius looked at it, and they said, well, this is nice, but we have this wonderful series already established, and we're wondering if you could take these ideas and put them into 100 First Words for Little CEOs. And I was thrilled and delighted to do it.
Wow. And how is the format of the book set up? Is it like an alphabet book that E is for ethics, or are there little stories that go along with the great illustrations?
No, it is literally the words and the illustrations, and they're grouped together in ways that are somewhat topical. So, for instance, there's a spread on economics. So you have microeconomics, scarcity, demand, GDP. There'll be another spread on marketing that includes product, sales, segmenting, targeting, positioning. So they're somewhat topical. And then there's at the beginning, we're using more general terms like ethics, mission, motivation, core values, that would include things like excellence, trust, honesty, integrity. One of the hardest parts of this whole book, quite honestly, was not deciding what words go in. Well, actually, yes, but also regretting the words that couldn't be in, because we had so many more than 100. We had a list, and we tried to pick words that were the most important, but also words that could be illustrated. Well, so that was the hardest part, was deciding, I guess, what's in and what's out. Yeah. And, I got to the point where I wanted to, I asked, can we do 150 instead?
Now, is there one of those words that had to be left out that you really kind of regret? Well,
it's funny that you asked that, because every day that I've been, working on the release, which was this week, I was thinking about, what about this word, and this morning the word I thought, wow, I really wish that I had thought to include the word kindness. Like core values, trust, honesty, excellence, integrity. I think those, you could argue kindness is a component of those terms. But I do think when I think about my daily work and my profession, I'm so thankful when people are kind to me, and I try to be kind to other people. Of course, we all have our days when maybe we could do a little better, but I look at this, I think, yeah, that's a word we could have used. And then I think, well, what are we going to cut out? And that's hard too, because we did arrange the words topically, so there is data analytics and finance, and this is a book about business too. So that's the challenge.
Yeah. Well, our society is changing. I know when I was a kid, and my dad kind of grew up with this and did, he went to work for a corporation, and then he was there forever. And so when I was in high school and in college, that was the message I heard from my dad. Get a job with a big company, stay there for the rest of your life. And that wasn't for me. And it actually wasn't available for many folks. And it's not really available for anybody these days. And we do have to start thinking, about life and about careers in a different way. And our kids are going to be faced with a very, very different, kind of professional environment. And I think it's really helpful for us to start talking to our kids about this and about different choices they're going to have to make. So I'm so happy that you and Familius have created this book. One of the things we ask authors is, what kind of conversations can families have when reading the book? This doesn't seem like a book that you're going to sit down and just read from cover to cover. This is more, I'm envisioning this book as like a great book to kind of pick up over and over again, and then maybe jump into like one topic and explore words in one topic, and just, I imagine just that word ethics, you could sit and talk for an hour about that with your kids.
I think so too. I think that your description of this as a conversation starter is excellent.
I do well sometimes.
But also think it depends on the age of the child.
Right.
Because when I've read books with my nieces and nephew and you have them on your lap, they're pretty into turning that page quickly.
Sure.
So I think this is a book where you can get through the words on a page and turn it quickly. For the very young children, as they get older and they're more curious and, have more facility with language, you could have those deeper discussions.
Yeah. And just one of the things that we encourage families to do is to take picture walks with their kids before they read the book, and even to go so far as to kind of cover up the words and just look at the pictures and just talk about the pictures. And that illustration that you talked to us about the word ethics, with the person with the two little characters on their shoulders, something that I grew up with and was very familiar with. I don't know if kids these days are as familiar with it, but what a great conversation you could have with your kids. Just, hey, what's this picture all about? What do you think about this picture? What's going on here?
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think and that picture's on the cover. Another one on the cover is opportunity cost. And we were talking about how ultimately time is our most precious asset. The choice of not only what are you doing, but what are you giving up? So Kyle did an illustration of a road with a fork in the road. And I think that's an interesting conversation to have.
Yeah. Really, really interesting. This is, I'm really excited. This is going to be, I think it's going to be a great addition to any family library. Cheryl, where can folks go to learn more about 100 First Words for Little CEOs and find out more about you?
Well, I have a website, and it's CherylBooks.com. So it's CHERYL books.com. The book can be purchased at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, IndieBound, on the Familius website, and Bookshop, and wherever books are sold. And I'm on Instagram. It's Cheryl_Sturm, STURM. And I'm also on Facebook with the same name. So I'd love for anyone to connect with me, send me an email. I'd love to start some conversations and hear what everyone thinks about the book.
Now that you have the debut book out there, have you caught the book writing bug?
Oh, I have. I have some proposals ready to go, but first things first. I'm really thankful to go through this process for this book, and I have some ideas for some other ones, but I'm putting all that on the back burner just to focus my attention on this one.
Well, we've had a wonderful time speaking to the author of 100 First Words for Little CEOs, a brand new book from our friends at Familius, Cheryl Sturm. Cheryl, thanks so much for being part of our show.
Thank you. I really appreciate being here.
Please be sure to join us for the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our next regularly scheduled guest is Lori Walmark. She is coming back to the show to tell us about Numbers in Motion, telling us the story of the queen of mathematics, Sophie Kowalewski. It's a really, really fascinating story. And as you know, Lori loves to find women in science, find women in mathematics, and really tell their stories and really celebrate women in stories and inspire young girls to check out STEM fields. I was mentioning that the next regularly scheduled episode, we've been putting out a lot of additional content since the quarantine happened. If you didn't already catch it, be sure to catch my 9th birthday. It's not really my 9th birthday, but it's my 9th birthday. It's available on YouTube. It is a great video that you and your kids will love. It features magical performances, a magic lesson, and a reading of my book, Real Magic, and an invitation to download the book for free. You can find that, Jed Lee's 9th birthday party, at YouTube, on my YouTube channel, and Jed Lee is spelled Jedlie. We plan on releasing more magic lessons and more magical performances for kids. We thought about doing the read aloud, but it seems like everybody in Hollywood and everybody everywhere is doing read aloud. So I think we need some different type of content for all of you out there. We also have some special things for parents. If you didn't already catch it last week, we released a special little message from my friend Ed Paris, who is a principal in an elementary school outside of Boston. He was my kids' teachers. He's a phenomenal educator. He has a really important message for parents, especially all of you parents out there who have been pushed into the role of being your kids' teacher during this quarantine time. Really, really inspiring message. You don't want to miss it. The best way to make sure that you don't miss an episode of the show is to subscribe to the show on wherever you find your podcast. You can find us and subscribe to us on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Himalaya, Podchaser, Stitcher Radio. You name the platform, you most likely will be able to find us there. You can also connect with us on social media. Facebook.com/readingwithyourkids. At Gently Magic on Twitter and at Reading With Your Kids on Instagram. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so very wonderful. Of course, I want to thank our guest, Cheryl Sturm. Be sure to check out 100 First Words for Little CEOs. I want to thank my amazing team, Fatima Khan, my producer, Peggy Cotto, my author ambassador. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all of the support she's given me, but most of all, I want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. Thank you so much for all that you do for your kids. You are making the world a better place with all that love you're putting out there. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading With Your Kids podcast.